Hi, and thank you so much for joining me today for another process video. And today I'm documenting this lovely photo of myself with Jackie and Julie from the Hey Little Magpie design team when we met up at a pub in Staffordshire for lunch. And Jackie got this gorgeous selfie of us all coming out at the end of the day. We had such a wonderful time. In fact, we're going back, as you watch this, if you're watching this the day it goes live, we're going back tomorrow to meet Sheena to celebrate 10 years of them being on the Hey Little Magpie design team. So I can't wait for that. It'll be great to catch up again. So I decided that I wanted to pull out colours to match the beautiful brickwork on that porch outside the pub. And so I pulled out my Fernwood and Print Shop collections. They're all in one pack together now because I've almost used them up, and just went for all the peachy, pinky tones in those two collections and pulled out the scraps or the 6x8 paper. As you can see here, this is a 6x8 paper from the pad. I think I only had 2 or 3 sheets left. And I'm just going to create a massive mat behind my photo along the left hand side, more or less along the left hand side, sort of a third in, to document this story. So you can see there I've matted the photo onto white cardstock, just a scrap of white card, and then I used that black and white stripe as my, I didn't want anything solid black, I wanted it to be more subtle. So that was my second mat, and then I'm just pulling out various papers to add differing mats behind the photo. So the first one you can see is that 6x8 paper pad that I trimmed down and then tore the bottom edge. And then I found this lovely grid paper which I've added behind. Now I'd forgotten to distress the edges. I got a little bit carried away layering there. So I'm just pulling them back and distressing the edges using my Tim Holtz edge distresser, curling up the torn edge just to create a different texture there, and then carrying on distressing those edges. Because I use an ATG gun and never take my tape right to the very edge of the papers, it's easy to just pull the other layers back and distress those bits that I'd forgotten to do. So nearly there with that, and then I can carry on building. And you can see I've got a nice selection of papers underneath to the left under my ATG gun there, and I'm just pulling bits, and if they work, using those. I'm not trying to second guess myself or put too much effort into it because I know all these papers will work really nicely. So just slowly layering up and trying to work with the shapes that I've got there as well. Trying not to cut things down or yes, I suppose cut things down. I'm trying to work with the sizes of paper that I've got. So you can see I've chosen one lovely long strip of dotty paper there, which is narrower, and then a wider strip which is shorter, and then just layering the other bits and pieces around the edges of those. Now this piece was cut from that 6x8 paper pad I matted the photo onto, and I did want to extend that so that it looks like it's 12 inches. I needed one piece that spanned the complete height of the page, so that's why I cut that one in half and just tucked it behind. You can see this floral piece has got some little bits punched out, so I'm just hiding those punched holes behind the paper. And as I'm pushing things in now, things are starting to move, so it's just about time to start gluing these together. And I decided that rather than pulling everything apart and risking losing the rhythm that I've got of putting all these papers together, I'm actually going to grab some washi tape in a minute, and behind where the photo sits, I'm just going to run some washi tape to hold the majority of these strips in place. It doesn't work for all the strips because some of them are where the photo doesn't hide the washi, so I can't do that for those bits. With hindsight, I should have just used a piece as a temporary piece, turned them over, and then added washi to the back, and I'll definitely do that next time. But here I am now with my unsightly green on this pink and orange paper, and just tacking things down where I can. And then I do a really unelegant flip in a minute of the paper and card to try and flip them upside down to add the tape on. But like I say, I should realise that washi tape doesn't damage paper at all. It's just a temporary fix. So if I'd thought, I could have just added some to the front, flipped it over, added plenty to the back to hold everything in place, and then turned it back again. But this worked, kind of. So a few bits fell off, you can see there, but more or less it worked. And then I realised I had it upside down. Thank heavens for that washi, actually, because that's what told me that I had it upside down. So now, because everything's glued, tacked together with that washi, and I haven't yet distressed anything. I am going to have to spend a little bit of time going around and distressing the edges of all the papers that I've got here. But first of all, just making sure that I'm including everything that I wanted to include and tucking them where they're supposed to be. So here I start with the distressing, and it does take some time, but it's well worth it because it does add a great deal of texture and movement to the final piece. And you can see I wanted that darker reddy pink piece there because it's breaking up the two paler pinks, the paler pink on the grid paper behind the photo, and then that paler pink that's in the large strip to the left of the black and white paper. So that was the branding strip, and just pull that in half so that some pokes out the top and some pokes out the bottom, and then just gluing this strip down as well. And I thought about using my edge distresser, but in fact some of the pieces are butted up against one another and not tucked underneath, so it's still fairly fragile, so using an edge distresser would have pulled everything apart. So I just resort to using my fingernails and roughing everything up, and I do like the look that gives. It's sort of ruffles up the paper rather than pulling pieces of paper off the edges, so it gives a different look than using an edge distresser, and I do quite like that. So that's roughly how the page is going to go. Now I did get carried away again, and I end up sticking all of this down, and I had wanted to add some mixed media to this, so again at the end you'll see how I do that retrospectively. It's quite easy to do. So just getting everything stuck down. It was easier trying to distress these edges with my fingernails once it was stuck, as it was a bit more solid and I wasn't going to pull everything apart. And then just using some wet glue just to stick down a few bits that didn't get ATG on. So now adding the photo, and more or less I can use those strips to make sure it's straight, but I do just come in with my T-square ruler, and look, you can see there the photo moved, but luckily I realised before I press it down too much, so just moving that back again, making sure it's straight, and then pushing that down. So I'm going to embellish all of this page with the bits again from Print Shop and Fernwood from Vicki Boutin. It's surprising because if you'd asked me I would have said that Fernwood was a very green collection, but it was amazing how many peachy pinks there are in that collection, and they really worked beautifully with this photo. So still going around, distressing the edges, gluing bits down if I feel they need a little bit more stability. Definitely don't want them coming off the page. Almost there now. There we go. So now I've pulled out some bits from the ephemera pieces and pieces that I've fussy cut in the past from the paper sheets. This tag is from one of the cut apart sheets, and it just says love this, and I think that's going to work really nicely. The colours are perfect. So again, just roughing up the edges, adding a hole where the hole is, and then deciding where it's going to go. At first I think it's going on the right, but I feel like it comes over a little bit too far, and then I decide it will work really nicely on the left there. Well, down a bit. I do move it down a bit, and I will just trim off the edge so that we're not losing Jackie off the photo. Next, this lovely strip that says document, and I am going to back that onto some of that black and white paper as well. So think about overlapping it onto the tag, but I just wasn't happy with the placement there, so in the end I had it underneath Julie there, and then just add some paper. So here I am trimming off the edge of that tag just so that it shows a little bit more of the photo there, and then going through some of the other bits that I pulled out. I find this book plate, and initially I'm going to use that as a mat for the document, but again that changes as well. I'm just auditioning pieces at this stage. I'm not exactly sure where I want things to go, but I've got a little bit of an idea. That's a fussy cut camera, and this little piece is from a film strip that I die cut using a Hey Little Magpie die on a previous layout, and it was just a little bit left over, so I had that on my desk and decided to use that under the tag, just bringing that black into that side of the layout. So this is where I decide to back this book plate, so just using the spotty paper again and adding a filling to that. There we go. I managed to get glue all over the paper, but just wiping it off there. and then deciding where that document piece wants to go. So I do mat it onto this paper, as I say. At first I leave quite a big border and have some of that white showing on the edges, but in the end it's just too big and clunky, so I trim it all down. So stick it down to the black first of all. I think it's when I cut the V out of the pennant bit that I realise that it just doesn't look right. So I'm just going to trim those white bits off so it just looks like it's backed onto black card really. There we go. And the book plate doesn't really work there either, so I am going to move that above to the right of the photo, and it works much better. And that little camera is going to sit on the tag just there. So I do stick the document banner down, and this is where I move that book plate. So now I want something to the right of the photo because I feel like everything's moved out a little bit too far to the right. So I'm just going to stick this tag down and then I can work out what to do next. So sticking the book plate down because I know I want it to go there. And then it's just to find something to go above it, just to soften that harsh line. It's a very big step from the photo out to the edge of the book plate. So into the ephemera pieces, and straight away I see that little moth, which is the right colour, so I add that. And then I find this little ticket piece, and this was fussy cut from one of the papers, and that starts to fill in that gap really nicely on the right hand side there. And then I think, this will be the perfect place to put another word phrase. So I find these little puffy stickers, don't have many of these left, but one that says "oh yes." So I think that will work really nicely. It works beautifully with the photo, so that's just going to sit like that. It goes a little bit higher up in the end. I'll just position that. And then, as I say, I just move it up ever so slightly so that the yes is sitting on the top of the book plate. And there's the exclamation mark. And then I can add some embellishments to the book plate just to fill that in. So I try the star, but that doesn't work. So I reach for a gold heart and a black and white heart. And that's much better there. And then there are two more gold hearts, so I just add one to the top there and one to the left of the document flag. Bringing in a tab, of course, to have my date at the top. So move that gold heart over to that, but it doesn't stay there either. I do put something else. And then on the 6x12 stickers from Fernwood, I find a little piece that says "My Story." The first one didn't work as well, but this one says "My Story" and it's the right colour. So I'm adding that up there, and then that black and white tab is die cut from one of the Hey Little Magpie dies, and then I added the gold heart onto that. So just gluing all these bits down now. I will add my date to that tab in due course, and then just gluing the stickers because they don't have a lot of stickiness left. It's a couple of years old, this collection, or more. So another sticker there that says "Reason to Smile." And then I find this pen, this fountain pen, and I think that will work really nicely along the bottom of the photo. It's just another embellishment just to fill in the gaps really, bring that black down to the bottom there, and I just think it works nicely, so I shall add that. Just using my Nouveau Deluxe adhesive to get that stuck down, and then gluing those two stickers down as well. So decide that I definitely need to add some glue to these puffy stickers. Again, they do have a tendency to move if you don't glue them down properly. They slowly lose their stick and you find them in the bottom of your page protector, which isn't great when you're looking through the albums. So decided to remedy that. Now I had these huge flowers. I think these were from Print Shop. And I just thought, the colours are perfect and they soften the edges of the steps across the papers. So tucking one big one at the bottom there and then mirroring that on the top left to add another one, different shape, but similar colours, same colour palette. And then I had this piece of organza ribbon in my little drawers on my desk, so just adding that to the tag. It's pink, but it works really nicely with the peachy orange tones of this page, so just tying a bow in that. And I love the texture that that provides on the page. So that's that sorted. And this is where I'm going to come in with my mixed media. So bringing in some of the new Hey Little Magpie stamps. First of all, these little, they're They're like little arrows, aren't they? Triangular arrows. And I'm just using dried marigold, and I'm also going to come in with saltwater taffy, which is quite a peachy pink, and those colours work beautifully here. So once I've come in with these triangular arrows, I am going to bring in the circles or the bubbles from the same set and add some of those. Now we don't want these to be nice clean stamping, so I am going to add some water to them once they're stamped down, just to blend the edges out a little bit and provide some interest. And I'm not being too precious about cleaning the stamp each time. I'm just going into my various colours. They're close enough on the colour spectrum that I don't mind. So here I am just adding some water just to get those to bleed a little bit into each other and just provide a slightly more grungy look. Now I want to bring more in, certainly to the left hand side and also into those areas. So I brought in one of the brand new stamps. This is the grids stamp, and I love this circular grid. So I've added both the pink and the orange onto this, and you can see I didn't stick it down onto the stamp block because I don't know what I was thinking. I was inking it up flat on my glass mat without actually putting it onto a stamp block, so then I couldn't press it down onto the stamp block to get some purchase. So as soon as I flipped it over, it just fell onto the layout. But because I'm going for this grungy look, it was absolutely fine. So I just blended with some ink, and you'd never know. It looks like it was meant to be there. And then I will come in, as I say, on that left hand edge and bring a little bit more stamping into that left hand edge. So again, there I am with that stamp, and I have added some water to the stamp. There we go, you can see I'm just adding a little bit of water once I've added the ink, and then stamping that down. And then I shall do the same again at the top. And it's just bringing that stamping over to that left hand edge. So this is where I remember that I haven't actually added my date. So I add that to a scrap of white card, cut it out, and then stick that onto my tab, the craft tab that I've got at the top there. That tab was cut out with an EK Success punch. We've also got a set of dies that have a similar shape in at Hey Little Magpie if you're looking for something like that. And then my journaling, which is just going to go underneath that document arrow and around that flower. So I'm just adding my pencil lines, use my T-square ruler so that I write in a straight line, because I certainly wouldn't otherwise. So just getting all those lines down, and then grabbing my gel pen to write over. And that's going straight over that mixed media. It's fine, it's just paint and water, so it doesn't really cause an issue. And then I'm coming in with black soot and the other arrow stamp from this set, and just stamping that a few times along that right hand edge of papers, and also onto the paper in that book plate, just to fill in that blank a little bit. Again, being lazy, I couldn't find my small block, so I'm using this huge block. It's ridiculous. Sometimes it's what's the saying, more haste less speed, or the other way around. I really need to just slow down a bit and look for the right tool. So one more at the top here, and that's the layout done. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for joining me, and I shall see you again soon. Bye.